All right. Well, welcome everybody. And today we have Bart Mamzer. Am I pronouncing that
Hi.
correct? Hey, how's it going? He is
Yeah,
the
it's
creator
perfect.
of Powerlust. It's a Diablo-esque type of online mobile game. We have featured it many, many times on the Best of Unity. It looks awesome. It brings me back to when I was, I don't know, maybe 15 and Diablo just came out, and I'm just super stoked about this. So I really, when I had a chance to talk to Bart, I was really excited about it. So, Bart, thank you for being a part of this. Thank you for hanging out with us and sharing with us your experience as a Unity developer building games.
Thanks. It's great to be here. I don't really work as a game developer, so it's nice to be able to talk to game devs.
Mhm.
I'm a software developer by trade, so it's not really exactly the same.
Well, I wanted to get into that because everybody has a different past on how they got to where what they're doing. Fill us in. How did you get into Unity? Did you clearly you started as a software developer? How did you start with that, and then what slowly led you into building games in Unity?
Uh, I think it was like the default choice when I was looking for an engine, at least when it comes to 3D games. I always liked 2D games, like isometric games, like Diablo, Baldur's Gate, and some strategy games. But I figured it would be easier to get assets in 3D. So I'm basically right now just faking the 2D with an orthographic camera. But yeah, I think I started like maybe like 8 years ago, something like that. I'm not exactly sure. I think I just Googled probably for some engine, and Unity was the easiest one to find, and there was a lot of tutorials for it, I think. And I imagined that it would be the easiest to get into mobile development because Steam was harder to get into those few years ago,
Mhm.
and the Android license was only $25, and I could easily release games there. So that's why I chose Unity and Android to start with, and yeah, and it's I'm kind of used to it now, and I still, even when I started working on my latest game, which was 4 years ago, I still thought that it would be easier to get people on Android than it was to on other platforms. And my idea was to release it early. I think I released it after like 8 months of development,
Mhm.
and then gather feedback from the users that I get and improve it according to that feedback.
Okay.
So it's been like 3 years ago, I think, when I released it, and yeah, I've been updating it ever since, and it's still going. So we'll see when it ends.
So you started, but you didn't start as a Unity developer. What did you start as? You started as a
You
software
mean
engineer.
us in programming or
Yeah,
work?
just in programming in general.
Well, I started programming in high school, and I learned Turbo Pascal, in which I actually made a super simple game, kind of like Space Invaders, I
Mhm.
guess,
Mhm.
but everything was green boxes. But yeah, it worked and it was quite fun. I made like a few small games when I was in high school, and then I kind of stopped a little bit, I think, because I went to college and started playing online games because I got access to the internet. So I started playing like Counter Strike and Ultima Online and stuff like that.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I kind of got a little bit sidetracked when it comes to my development journey. But yeah, I came back to it, and yeah, I made three smaller games before I started working on Powerlust, and they got like less than 1,000 downloads. The third one got like 5,000, I think, and was relatively
Mhm.
successful. I mean, comparing to the previous ones, and it was the first one that got any like positive reviews because it had, I think, over 4 stars rating, so it was quite fun. Yeah, that's true. That's
4 years is like a million years in game dev, especially in mobile. Yes, it is. It's a very, very, very long time.
Yeah, that's true. Although at the same time, I kind of feel like games on mobile don't really rely that much on graphics. So I think that it's still possible to get downloads even after so many years.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope that's gonna be the case for the next few years when I actually finish the game.
So okay, so let's go back. You're working. I'm assuming as a software engineer. What are you doing during the day? What are you building? Are you doing web? Are you doing
Yeah, yeah. Web
API
development in
web
C Sharp.
development? Okay. Hey, like 80% of all of our students start that way.
Yeah.
So you're doing web development. You're like, all right, I'm going to get into Unity. What version of Unity did you get in on? Was it 2000?
Oh, I don't remember. I
Was it
think it was
5?
before it. Yeah, I think it was 5 something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think Unity 5 just started integrating GI. I don't know if they even had character animations at that point. I don't know if Mechanim was a thing at 5 yet. It was right
I don't
around
think
that.
so.
Okay. So 2D was still completely ignored. That was in 17, 18. So you're working on a very early version of Unity. I mean, it's out of the 4.0 stage where it was a hobbyist engine at that point. But when it hit 5 and it was starting to use global illumination, it was baking lighting, it was using Enlighten. Now it started becoming a little bit more legit. So you started building this game. You had relatively no experience. Was it just YouTube that you were watching to learn how to program in Unity at that point? What is that how you kind of started your knowledge basis?
I don't remember, to be honest, but
Mhm.
I assume that I did what every programmer and developer does. So I
Mhm.
just Googled it and
Gotcha.
tried to find some resources.
Yeah.
I actually, yeah, I don't really remember if I found any specific channels or like tutorials that I looked at, but I'm pretty sure that I had to start from some tutorial, and then
Mhm.
once I got around how to move in the engine, then I tried to do something
Mhm.
uh, for myself.
Okay.
I think that's the best approach, just to get a few tutorials, and then if you are a little bit more comfortable, then you try doing something and just Google the answers to your questions, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
I think that's the easiest.
I gotcha. So you started off building this isometric view, very similar to Diablo.
No,
Um,
no, no. I didn't start with this one.
oh, no, I'm sorry. You started with some other games, and then you came to
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yes.
yeah, yeah.
So when did you get to
Yeah.
Powerlust? When did you start developing Powerlust?
Yeah, it was. I think it was like the last around November 2017. I think it
2017.
was.
Okay.
And before that, I was very non-motivated, and I
Mhm.
had a lot of procrastination issues when it comes to game dev.
Absolutely.
But when I started working on Powerlust, I decided to try a few things to beat my procrastination.
Mhm.
And like seriously, I started in the 1st of January 2018.
Gotcha.
I started posting social media updates every day on
Mhm.
Twitter,
Okay.
Facebook, and Instagram for a year.
Mhm.
Then I realized I hate Instagram and Facebook is too much work, so I just kept with Twitter. Uh, and I recently stopped, but I think I was at like 1,200 tweets, daily tweets, when I stopped, because I kind of figured it doesn't really give me anything.
Mhm.
I feel like I should have maybe focused more on the quality of these tweets, but I was just pumping them out with some random gameplay video.
Mhm.
And that 1,000 followers for 1,200 tweets is not a good like ratio, I think.
Right, 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 right. I hear you. Okay. So you started working on this 2018. What was your goal? Was it just you were going to focus in on the combat at that point, right? And you hired a whole team of artists, and they all work for you,
Yeah,
building all the content. You have a guy who makes all your custom animations and your visual effects, and you have somebody making your music. Am I correct? Am I hitting this right out of the park?
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Although they might have been working for more people than me, you know. Uh, yeah, I've used a lot of assets, and even the code is, hacked from different assets together. So it's not like I'm focusing on coding and doing everything in coding by myself.
Yeah.
I just try to get everything done as quickly as possible so that it's possible that I can actually, finish the game. So I just look for the easiest way to get things done, basically.
Okay. Okay. So let's talk about and while we're doing this, let's go ahead. I'm gonna share my screen because I want people to have a decent idea of what Powerlust looks like. And
Yeah, that's the latest trailer, so good choice.
now I really dig this because this doesn't look like it was created by one dude. It looks like it was created by, a team of people working together building this game. And I'm going to copy the link in here because it may have been choppy for some people as they're watching on the screen
Sure.
because that's just what happens. But it looks extremely impressive. Um,
Thank
now,
you.
going through this, okay, so you have your character in this isometric view. So let's kind of go through some of the bigger parts, I think, of this, and you can kind of fill us in on maybe some of the smoke and mirrors that is currently occurring. Okay, so we know this is a 3D game. We know that you're
Yes.
using an isometric camera. Um, let's talk about the environment. Is it all one plane using a nav mesh agent, or is it something different?
It's procedurally generated based on rooms with an asset called Dungeon, I think it's called.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's the name. And all of the rooms, well, most of the rooms were actually cut out from different packs. So it's not like I bought packs and arranged stuff. I just cut the rooms that were in the packs and used them for the levels mostly. Only a few instances where I couldn't do that. I just designed the rooms myself.
Okay. Okay.
And the enemies also are from different packs. And yeah, they have behavior designer, I think, it's the asset for the AI. And I'm using Opsif third person controller, I think, for most of the controller stuff that I need, although it's heavily modified.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Um, you mentioned the environments are procedurally generated. So did you create a procedurally generated dungeon spawner, or is it um predetermined in a sense as far as your
No,
default?
like I said, it's using the dungeon asset, which basically takes like a bunch of rooms that you pre-design
Mhm.
and it jumbles them together, creating a unique level.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Like every room can have like several entrances that are covered with walls,
Mhm.
but depending on if this entrance is used or not, then the wall will be removed and it will be connected to another room. So
Gotcha.
that way you can achieve like more or less hand designed levels, but with a lot of variety.
Gotcha. And you mentioned that you got the characters. I'm assuming the animations as well. You were able to get those animations, apply those using the mechanism system and this AI enemy AI system that you're currently implementing, correct?
Yeah, all of the stuff. Yeah, I was able to use, and I got from the asset store. I don't think I made like almost anything here by myself. Maybe except the maybe except the icons of the items,
Gotcha.
but I made them by screenshotting the models that I had. So yeah, but at least they look exactly the same when you wear them, right? So
Right. I
that's
gotcha. I
that's a
gotcha.
bonus. Yeah.
What about all the particle effects here? I see a lot of different particle effects. Were these purchased as well? Are they using the regular particle system or are they using something else?
Yeah, I bought them and they are like 5 different systems because I bought them from different people.
Gotcha.
So I basically bought every cool looking particle effect that I could find and that would fit the game because I
Yeah.
don't want the game to be too cartoony. I
Mhm.
want to be, relatively realistic looking.
Nice.
So yeah, and they have like different scripts and they work completely differently. So it took quite a while to make them, for example, deal damage and stuff like that, because you basically I basically had to read like uh, add those parts to every of those
Mhm.
asset packs.
Gotcha.
But yeah, it requires a lot of maintenance, but still, it's a lot faster and it looks a lot better than if I made them myself.
Oh, absolutely. Don't get me wrong. I am a huge proponent of it's less about I absolutely despise it when I talk to a developer who says I'm going to build everything from scratch because I know that it's never going to get done. I'm a huge proponent of you got to use your resources. If you can go on to the Unity asset store and pick up this lava texture and this entire environment, and now it's just assembling a level versus trying to individually UV unwrap, retexture, rebuild, then export, import into it, make sure all the sizes are correct. I think it's a horrible idea, horrible way of development. And the only way, like, reason why other big companies like these game studios are able to actually pull this off because they got publishers who gave them 150,000, 350,000, $1 million to finish building this game, and they have the budget to hire artists to build this content. But from an independent perspective, you got to use the assets that are available, and I'm a huge proponent of that. I think that's the smartest way to do it, honestly.
I mean, I think it depends on the goal because if your goal is to make games, then yeah, I agree. But some people might have a different goal. For example, some people might want to learn everything there is in game development, or I don't know.
Mhm.
Some people might want to make a game on completely on their own. If that's their goal, then
Yeah.
sure. But yeah, if you want to make the game, then definitely you need to use
Yeah.
everything you can.
That I think you nailed it right there. If well, not just make the game. If you want to finish the game,
Yeah.
you're probably going to need to buy stuff. And it's more, to me, it's more impressive to see someone who can go into and grab somebody else's system that they made and be able to read and understand the code well enough to know how to manipulate it and have it talk to other systems that they may have got and have the whole game work and function properly. Um, that's impressive to me because that takes a stronger understanding of game development versus just somebody who has something created specifically for them and it has to be this specific way. It shows a lot of adaptation. It shows a lot of skills, and I'm sure you got a lot of that from having to do web development and working in code all day and being able to have to read C# all day long. You understand how it works, so you can go into somebody else's code and how to, hey, I can pull these variables out and make this function correctly.
I mean, yeah, but don't get me wrong. It's not like it worked straight away.
Oh, absolutely.
It definitely requires a lot of work and a trial and error, right? Like
Mhm.
everything in game development, probably.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, tell us more about Powerlust. Okay, so it started back in 2018. What was the initial scope, and how long did it take for you to get to that, I guess,
Yeah.
first product that you could publish and show people?
So the idea was to make a game kind of like Wayward Souls,
Mhm.
which is an roguelike light RPG. I mean, it doesn't really have that many RPG elements. It's mostly a roguelike, but it had a nice control scheme that I liked, where you had to aim at the enemies, and it was overall good looking and fun to play.
Mhm.
But yeah, I tried doing that, but as you probably know, scope creep is quite hard to evade. Yeah, so I've started adding more and more features that basically made this game more like Diablo, and
Mhm.
all of the hack and slash games. So I've added item systems, I've added super complex progression system for the character, and a huge number of options for the player to choose from when it comes to magic schools, for example.
Mhm.
So yeah, in the beginning it was supposed to be only mage only, for example, which soon, I mean, well, maybe not soon, but which a lot of players had an issue with. So like I said, I was basing my game design partly on the feedback too. So
Mhm. Mhm.
I've added the warrior, and for some reason, it's a lot more fun than the mage. So I guess that was a good choice. Yeah.
Very cool. Okay, so you started in 2018. You started adding these things. It slowly switched into Diablo. At what point did you have a game that you were able to share with friends and they were able to play, beta test it, and they were really able to give you some solid feedback?
I think it was like a few months
Okay.
that I've shown to anyone. I mean, like I said, I'm using some character controller, and I feel I'm using a lot of assets. So I think you were able to like move around and maybe shoot some spell relatively quickly.
Mhm.
Uh, but yeah, I think it took me like 8 months to release it to the Play Store. So
Okay. Okay. And what
it
was
was still
what was
fast, but
well
yeah.
in that Play Store release? Was it just how many levels was it? Was it just one level? What was the scope that at that point?
I think it was just one level
Mhm.
type. I mean, like it was a bunch of rooms randomized so that you were going through them
Mhm.
again and again. I think that was the case, and just a few enemies. I think
Gotcha. Gotcha.
I don't remember, but I think I had like maybe 5 enemies or something like that,
Okay.
maybe 8.
Gotcha. Gotcha. All right. Okay. And then okay, so you released it out. You're probably exhausted at that point because that's just tiring to finally actually get it up, and there's like this euphoria of like, oh, it's done. All right. And then you start getting the feedback, and you're like, no, I don't want to do it yet. And then, oh, fine, I'll eventually get back on it. When was the next big release? Like, how long did it take for you to get back on that horse, or did you just jump on it right away and keep going?
Yeah, like I mentioned, I had like a issue with procrastination before I started this project, so I
Mhm.
wanted to change that, and I took some precautions so that I kept working on the game every day.
Okay.
So that's what I did. I think I worked on it pretty much every day for that year at least. So
Mhm.
it was almost all of the days that I worked on
Okay.
it for the last four years, to be honest. Because
All right.
even if I did just a little bit, I still tried to do at least a little bit of something
Okay.
coding or something like that.
So as far as like stepping stones, you got your first year, you got your first level, main character, 5 enemies on there. What was the next big step on the second year that you hit with Powerlust? What
I
changes?
think it's going to be easier if I just open
Sure, absolutely.
a release like list or something like that, because
Sure.
I honestly don't remember. 1 second. Uh, yeah, I'm going to open the production. Yeah, production is here. I think there are some like releases, release history. Yes, exactly. Okay, that's a lot of releases. Well, yeah, I have like 40 of them, 45 actually.
45.
So, yeah,
All right, 45 releases.
Quite a few of them. Can you go next? No, you can't. Okay, so I don't think it's reasonable, but basically I just started adding more content. The game looked completely different at the time. I'm not sure if it was black and white, and it was like it had some filter on it that made it look super weird. If you open my website, Bart, Mamzer, site. 1 second, I open it and share it.
Sure.
You can see that it's quite different than what it was.
Oh wow! Yeah, it looks completely different. It looks hand drawn.
Yeah, I had some cool like effect for it. Let me share my screen. Okay, so yeah, this is how it looked, and arguably it looks better than than it did. But yeah, I think I might have some similar camera filter effect available for people who pay for donations.
Gotcha.
But anyway, yeah, this is basically how it looked. But after some time, I realized that every dungeon felt the same because of the same color palette and because of my lack of design skills. So I decided to go back to normal coloring, and I've started using the stuff that I had, and I've added another dungeon type from another asset pack. So there was a little more variety in the levels. And then at some point I've added like in total 5 different dungeon packs, and I sat down and worked in batches basically on the enemies. I pumped out like 40 enemies, but I was able to make it relatively quickly because I did it in like one time, right? So I had my workflow prepared, and it was like, I think I was adding like
Jesus. Oh my god.
Nice. I think I was adding like 2 enemies per day or something like that, so it was relatively fast. And yeah, and I think then I started working on the story mode, which had some village and some quests, but unfortunately it's not really available in the game right now. But yeah, these are all skins. This is basically how it looks. So it has like some quests, and it's locked for the players because the story mode was only like half an hour of gameplay, and people felt like it was too short, so I just disabled it and kept with the dungeon mode, which basically is an endless dungeon that you go through indefinitely.
Gotcha.
And so yeah, I was building it up. I have added items, then I've added 4 more magic schools and warriors and stuff like that, and it grew. But I enjoy working on the game, so I don't mind.
So what's the next? Because I mean, clearly you've added so much to this, and for it to be a mobile game is even more mind blowing as well. Like this is like full-fledged PC experience on a mobile game. What is the next step that you want to take? I saw that you're going to be releasing it now on Steam and on iOS. Am I correct with that?
I plan to do that, yeah, but I think I will. I'm not sure yet. I kind of feel like it might be better if I finish the game first, but I'm not entirely sure, to be honest. Google is nice because it has like these algorithms, right? So I'm pretty sure it checks if the retention is high, and especially if people play the game for a long time. And my play sessions are, I think, very high for a mobile game, at least from what I saw, the statistics. And they are growing with every update. So I think that's why I'm getting more and more downloads too, because the people play the game longer. So I kind of feel like Google gives me more downloads because of it. And to be honest, I'm not sure if Apple does the same thing. So I'm not sure if releasing a unfinished game is a good idea on Apple.
Gotcha.
I'm not sure.
Gotcha.
If anyone knows, I'd like to know.
Wow. So, all right.
Oh yeah, it's Polish, so I probably don't want Polish.
So what
Yeah.
are we looking at right here?
Something that might be interesting to you guys is the donation screen. Basically, it's again not really a typical mobile game because it doesn't have pay-to-win monetization system. It's basically just faster unlock of classes and some additional features like a bloodbath mode or a shared item stash, and some cool stuff like different camera modes that allow you to use a third person camera or like top down camera and some camera filters and stuff like that. And this is like for $20, I think. And for the people who really want to support the project, there is a $60 option where you basically get a statue for basically like a placing credits, but in the game world that will be added once the story mode is added.
Gotcha.
And there's a lot of people who appreciate the game and who decide to donate because like you mentioned, it's more of a PC game, and a lot of people hate mobile games, but they for some reason have to play on mobile. So I'm getting a lot of like responses that that's what they've been looking for on mobile and couldn't find, because it was based on old PC RPGs basically. So that was the idea, at least.
Wow. That's a really interesting idea, and I like the concept of it is in theory it's supporting the developer. It's a one-to-one. Hey, I love what you're doing. Don't stop. Keep going. I don't care. This is great that you're offering this to me, but it makes me feel better knowing that I'm supporting not just this entity, but this individual to keep doing what they love, because what they do makes me happy as well.
Yeah, and some people even write in the reviews asking other people to donate because so that their ads are not added to the game or stuff like that. So it's quite funny. Yeah, like I mentioned, there is a lot of like options for character progression. I've added a lot of different like magic schools, and all of them have like talents that are basically passive abilities that allow you to do something. And then there is like 8 spells for all of these magic schools that you can choose from, so there's a lot of stuff that I've added to make the game as much like the PC RPGs that I've played as I can.
That's incredible. And
the only thing that's missing right now, I feel, is the story mode. So since I've already added multiplayer, I imagined that I could maybe add an open world story, because why not? And yeah, that's the plan for the next year, probably. We'll see.
Very nice.
We'll see how long it takes,
Yeah, no, but this is really, really cool. Amazing. And so everyone can currently download this on Google Play, and
yeah, it's free on Google Play.
Waiting patiently in anticipation when it's complete for the PC and the iOS.
Yeah, I mean, I have an iOS version, so if anyone wants to try it out, you can contact me somewhere, like on Twitter, for example, and I can give you the build.
Okay.
For the PC version, it's not that easy because I don't have mouse support. It only has controller support. So yeah.
I gotcha.
I don't really have a build ready.
Okay, so I wanted to kind of pull away from this because clearly Powerlust is amazing. It looks like a fun game. Definitely everyone on here should go check it out. Give it a whirl. As you said, it's free. And it really does satisfy an itch. I know when iOS games first came out, I was looking for something like a Diablo, just because it was so hard to do anything with a lot of dexterity on the mobile phone. And this is something that I can use to progress my character and really chew up a lot of my time and progress that I could be putting toward other things in my life. But instead, I'm going to be playing your video game over and over again, which is going to be awesome. Um, but
Yeah.
can you give us an idea? Oh, good. Stats. Now, talk to us about when your first release came out, and then how it progressed from there.
Yeah, that's basically what this graph shows. So these small things here are updates.
Mm-hmm.
And as you can see, it didn't really get too many downloads at the start. It was
Right.
like probably like 20 per day or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But slowly over time, it started getting more and more downloads, and now it's getting like 800, 900 per day.
Mm-hmm.
I think in total it's a little bit below 200,000. So I think it's getting better and better with time.
Mm-hmm.
They also have this graph here that basically shows the daily user count, the green thing, but also the daily playtime per active user. So as you can see here, with more and more updates, people started playing the game more per day, which I believe translated into Google showing it to more people. So I think that's probably quite opposite to what most people say, that if you make a good game, it's enough. But I kind of feel like I didn't really do much marketing. I mean, I did do a lot of social media spam, like I mentioned, but I don't really feel like these posts gave me anything. So yeah, I'm not sure, unless there are some backlinks that Google is taking into account, maybe. But yeah, the majority of the downloads is coming from similar apps, I think. So basically, if my game was recognized as similar by Google to some other games, and then it's being shown there and people are downloading it. Yeah, the only I think here the spike in the first year, I think it was after a relatively small YouTuber made a video and also made a Reddit post. So I got like a few hundred downloads for 2 days. But yeah, it went back to the normal state. So yeah, I think it's not really a sustainable way to get downloads. Marketing, I think it's more about making the game fun for people so that they advertise it for yourself, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Word of mouth right there.
Exactly.
Very cool. And of course, it sounds like you're going to keep doing more upgrades over time. So just keep stacking that number up on itself and keep growing it. That's beautiful. Great.
Yeah, that's definitely the plan. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So on a lighter note, so let's learn a little bit more about you. We know you're a brilliant game developer. We know you're a brilliant software engineer. So let's ask you about gaming in general. What is your favorite game besides your own?
I don't know. There is too many of them. Maybe Diablo 1, probably. Maybe, I guess.
Maybe.
If I were to say in which game I spent the most amount of time, then it would probably be Counter-Strike, because it's multiplayer and I played a lot. But I mostly played like old RPG games and old strategy games and a few shooters, I guess. Yeah.
Oh, so have you
Ultima Online, EVE Online, stuff like
have you
that.
dived into the new, like, the free Call of Duty games and stuff like that are basically like take the Counter-Strike formula and they juice them up, or the PUBG or anything like that?
I played a little bit of Apex Legends and it was quite fun, but it was at the point in my life where I didn't really have too much time for gaming. So I knew it would be pretty easy to addicted to that, especially if playing with friends. So I kind of stopped at some point because I have two small kids and a full-time job. So if I want to make this game, it would
Absolutely.
be better to focus on it.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I don't really miss it anymore. I take more enjoyment from game development now than playing games. When I start a game, I'm like super bored after like 5 minutes. So
Right.
I don't know.
Interesting one.
It's
Yeah.
weird.
Wow.
Yeah.
So on the flip side, has there been a game that you recently played that maybe didn't meet the expectations you hoped? That you're like, man,
Recently.
yeah.
Uh, hmm. Actually, can I say like the opposite?
Yeah.
Because I played Slay the Spire and I was expecting to play just a little bit of it,
Yeah.
but for some reason it was super addictive and I spent a lot of time, a lot more than I expected
Oh,
on
really?
it. So yeah, I expected to spend a few hours and it didn't meet my expectations. It exceeded them
Completely surpassed it. Yeah.
several times. Yeah. So it was a lot of fun.
Nice.
The other way around, I'm not sure to be honest. I had Game Pass, so I downloaded a bunch of games and played a lot of them for like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
But to be honest, I didn't really have high expectations. I just expected to play a few minutes to see how games work nowadays and to have some,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Let's see. If you didn't have to work for money, would you just build games the rest of your life, or would you do something completely different?
I think so. I mean, right now I'm not really making that much money from game dev, and
Mhm.
I'm still working on it almost every day. So I think I would probably make games for at least several years. It's hard to tell what I would like to do in like 20 years, but so far I'm very satisfied and happy with my choice. And I think that making games is a great way to spend time. It's very satisfying and it's also very, especially if you're making the games in a small team or alone, there's a lot of different things that you have to learn and do. So you can't really get bored that easily because you constantly have to switch tasks between different aspects of game development and marketing. So it's very like satisfying to learn all this stuff and to use it. And, obviously it's hard and
Mhm.
it's especially at the beginning. It's super hard to start doing something like, for example, animations or lighting in games is pretty hard to start doing, but it's still a lot of fun and satisfaction.
When you started doing game development, did it come easier than you expected, or was it more of a challenge than you anticipated?
I think every different aspect of game development that I started doing started hard.
Mhm.
You basically can't get around that, I think, unless you are like, you already know something. Like, for example, I knew programming, right? So I was a little bit ahead when it comes to programming, but then there was like a ton of different things that you have to do in Unity to make the game. For example, animations, which are quite hard to understand if you're something starting out,
Mhm.
and you basically have to get through it. It's going to be hard at the beginning, and a lot of trial and error is involved for sure. But after some time, you get better, and it's all right. So I think that's the only way to go forward. Yeah,
Gotcha.
and also you have to keep in mind that there is a lot of people who try doing that, and there is a lot of, most of them will fail and get annoyed too much,
I think
especially at like,
most. I think
exactly,
most
yeah.
is generous. Like I think I was reading a statistic, and Unity had something like 5.5 million downloads of Unity.
Wow.
How many of those people actually published a game in the end? You know?
Yeah, that's sad.
Yeah.
But like I said, imagine that if you can get through this one more issue, then you are ahead of the competition and you are beating so many people, so that's one way to think about it. I think that the most annoying are the tool errors, like if you get some like Unity error that is out of your hands basically, and you have to wait for an update or something like that. That might be quite demotivating, but what can you do?
Gotcha. Oh, no, that's good. And so if you can go back, because you're an older man now, you've got 2 kids. If you can go back in time, maybe to when you were 18 and you started procrastinating, and you can tell yourself a little bit of advice on something to do, what would you tell it? What would you tell yourself back at 18? The rest of your life would be amazing.
I think that the one thing, or maybe 2 things that changed my life the most when it comes to productivity, at least, were mini habits. So basically habit building by using a super small habit at first. Like I mentioned, I worked on my game more or less, almost every day for the last 4 years. That's because I built a habit around that, and I built it by assuming that I will be working at least 5 minutes a day on my game. And if you start working on it, it's most of the time you keep working. The hardest part is starting. So even if you start for those 5 minutes, like 90% of the time you keep working for several hours. And making yourself start working on something for 5 minutes is a lot easier than saying that you're gonna work on it for an hour. So that's definitely one of the things that made my life a lot easier. And the second one was diet, because I didn't really have that much energy in the previous years, but since I realized that I wouldn't. It's pretty stupid. If I told it to myself when I was 18, then I would be like, yeah, sure, because everyone says that, right? Diet is important, but it was incredible to me how much energy I got after starting keto, and it's I don't understand how to explain it so that people actually believe it. I think people just have to try it in order to see for themselves how much energy you can get. Because before trying keto, I was like basically couch potatoes, and now I have energy for almost everything. So it's pretty weird.
Gotcha. That's some great advice. So every week, Tom, who's one of our coaches, puts together a question, and sometimes it's oriented toward game development, specifically, let's say, a code. Sometimes it's general knowledge of Unity. Sometimes it's associated with it, but usually we just declare that whoever can answer it first is the greatest developer for this week. And so Tom's going to put together a quick question that he's going to put into the chat, and then everybody will have a chance to answer it. Now, keep in mind, for the last couple of weeks, Tom has liked to throw in a lot of trick questions. So just be aware of this. And Tom Fox, whenever you are ready to post that into the chat, everybody can kind of go at it and see if they can conquer your question. Okay, so the question is, why should you normalize a vector before using it for movement in your code? Why should you normalize a vector? Now, normalizing is when you take it from 0 to 1. It doesn't go past those numbers. So why should you normalize it? Bart is the greatest programmer this week. I would just like to point that out. He wins. Yes, that's exactly why. So you don't have these crazy like progress on the X at 30 and Y at or Z at 3 or whatnot. So yes, that's why you normalize it. Good job. Good job. Good job. All right.
Thank you.
I feel good. This was awesome. I had a lot of fun. How are you feeling, Bart?
Yeah, it was great. Always talking to other game devs is always fun. So
Perfect. I am going to put in the chat. Make sure you guys go check out his game and take a look at it. Other than that, I think this is pretty much it. And thank you so much for being a part of this. Is there anything you'd like to tell the developers that are on and will be on to watch this later? Any advice that you would like to give them, or any last words?
yeah, if anyone wants to, have a chat, then just contact me on Twitter and we can talk.
Mhm.
It's Bart Mamzer. I think it's going to be somewhere probably, or at least in the game. There is a link to
Mhm.
my Twitter account. So
I will post that
yeah,
up right now.
yeah.
Excellent. And here's a link to the Twitter as well. All right, guys. Other than that, have a great weekend and enjoy yourself. And Bart, if you want to just hold on a second, when we'll let everybody hop on off.
Thanks, guys, for listening. Hopefully, it wasn't super boring.
Oh, it was a lot of fun. All right. So